Back to the delusion. Back to La La Land we go. This one right here. This one right here. All right, let's just get into it.
Allowed to compete in women's sports.
Of course, she's walking over.
I do
proudly.
think that trans women have every right to compete in women's sports. When trans women are on hormones, the hormones break their body down. Having gender affirming surgery breaks down the body. And so I think we really need to be educated before we jump to a conclusion.
She keeps on saying educated, but none of what she is saying makes any sense. Breaks down what? The male body? What we're saying is that body is male. It doesn't matter if she says gender affirming surgery breaks the body down. Like all this stuff, it's just all this different nuance. It's like overload. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, literally, like, I don't get it. Like, I truly don't understand. It's so crazy to me. It's so crazy to me. You know, like we are legitly in La La Land. And it's weird because it's like she gets a kick out of this. Like she's over here, the way that she strutted over here. It's like, in case you don't know, in La La Land, left is right is left, down is up. Like everything's just flipped in reverse. And the reason why, in La La Land, the reason why the people who live in La La Land, the reason why everything is flipped, is just because and who are you? Who said left was left? And then you're sitting over here, your whole entire life, you just know left to be left, right? And you're just supposed to know, like we get emails or something. It's crazy. I know one thing though, I would not want my daughter to compete with another, especially when there's scholarships, things like that in school. Like there's stories where women have missed out on scholarships because spots were taken up by biological males. Like we're talking about scholarship opportunities. And the crazy thing is the males, when they were just performing with the other males, they weren't even standout athletes. They were subpar athletes when they competed with the males. But when they start competing with females, they're at the top of the pack because we all understand that males are more suited for physical activity. That's biology. That's our body composition. You know, that goes down to just who we are, our DNA. So to actually be so sold in, to have drank the Kool-Aid to the point where you're willing to argue this, like you're dying on this hill alone. Like your fellow combatants they're not even with you anymore. And you're strutting over like crazy. Just crazy.
Conclusion that trans women are stronger than cis women in sports.
There she goes with the cis women again.
Hi, everybody.
I find it interesting that you assume the people who disagree with you are uneducated, and I will speak out against that. I think the research shows that trans women
and it's really disrespectful, honestly. It's crazy. How can you educate women on women? I'm a man, and I know, like it's just wild to me.
Do happen to have a biological advantage against biological women, even though you are taking hormones, and that does start to change your body and level things out. We're talking about primarily people who have transitioned post-puberty, which means they do have male bone density, male wingspan, male hand size, feet size, lung capacity. All of these things are going against women, biological women, when trans women start to enter their spaces, their sports, and compete against them. And this is really concerning for me.
I think for me, it's not a question of whether or not trans women can compete in sports. It's a question of how can we change the institution of sports in this country.
What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? How can we change the institution of sports? What do you mean? That's what we're saying. You can't. Men have to play sports with men. Women have to play sports with women. Like, are you even listening?
To make it equitable and to create more opportunity for cis women, for trans women. And like, that's kind of like why I wanted to actually ask you all, like, what has your relationship to sports been?
I don't think you have to have a direct relationship to sports to realize that women are being affected by this issue, and I do reject the idea of equity. There is no way to come about an equality of outcome, which is what equity is saying. There's a reason that women's sports are less funded and less watched than men's sports. It's because men seem to excel athletically, and they seem to press the bounds of athleticism way farther than women do. We now exist on a slippery slope. If it's female sports, is it then female locker rooms? Is it then female prisons, which we're now seeing becoming an issue here in California, where biological male inmates are being put in female facilities because they identify as women? We have to discuss as a society how much we give into the feelings of wanting everybody to be accepted and how much we are willing to do that at the expense of biological women.
Exactly.
I use myself as an example. This is about how big I was in junior high school and early high school. I used to be able to walk up to a V8 engine block, pick it up off the floor and set it on a table. And if I was in powerlifting or weightlifting, that amount of, that advantage was just unbelievable. I've been on hormones for 15 years. Did it weak?
And he still looked like he beat somebody's ass. This dude looked like Steve Seagal, or however the hell you say his name.
Weaken me? Absolutely.
He looked like he know Krav Maga and shit. Like he got a wooden workbench and shit.
My bone density really hasn't changed. My muscular hasn't changed. And this is not a binary question. There's a lot of nuances involved.
I just want to ask a question. For what you were saying, can you throw out some statistics?
I don't think you need.
Statistics don't exist in La La Land, sweetheart. And like I said, that's me being polite. Don't catch me slipping. Like, what you just call? Oh, no. It's a reaction, so it's there now. Oh, man, I can't believe I just did that. But what does she mean, statistics? You know for a fact that the WNBA, women's sports, they don't even really have, like a female version of football, because I don't think there's a lot of women who want to really play collision football like that. And there's, probably not a market of people who would want to see that. Like most girls roll their eyes when you start talking to them about football. So just understand that sports in general it's not something that a lot of women want to take part in or even are interested in. Like men are competitive. Like that goes back to DNA, because we used to have to compete to be able to just live normal day lives, and we've evolved that way. So to just throw all that, like, common sense, that's what we're using right here. You should try it.
To have so there's an abundance of research. There's even trans activists who agree with exactly what I'm saying. And your hormones can change, right? And even she just spoke to the fact that her bone density did not change in going on hormones and changing these things. And we can see it in.
And she can pick up a goddamn engine block and shit. put both of them on both her shoulders and shit. I mean, like, let's just keep it 1,000.
Sports, as we're watching them, Leah Thomas is a great example.
So if you can't throw out the statistics, we're not doing enough of the work. And let's also be clear.
There's no work to be done. You know what I mean? Like, newsflash, like, there's no work to be done. Like, this is set in stone. This is truth. This is out in the, this is like the air that you breathe. This is what it is. We don't have to prove this. I don't have to prove to you that there's oxygen in the room. We're sitting here breathing. I don't have to tell you the statistics. I don't have to tell you the breakdown and explain everything to you and explain to you how you can breathe. You go do the research. You go do the work. And it's crazy, like, especially with her, as delusional as she has been, the crazy thing that I've noticed with her calling them cis women, them expressing that they don't go by that or anything, they have been nothing but polite. And they have tiptoed and walked on eggshells this whole entire sit down. But she on the other hand, she has just been brash, rude, petty. Like you want them to respect you and call you she. So why are you still calling them cis women? You're telling them to get educated. Imagine if they sat there and called called him him. Imagine if they just cut to the bone of it and called him a he. Imagine what would happen. He would get so upset, but he probably whoop all their asses. And then go smoke a pack of Newports. I mean, I'm just keeping it 1,000 shit. It's 6 and cereal. Okay? I'm just being 1,000. So, I mean, what more can I really say about that?
Clear, there are some cisgender women who produce high levels of testosterone as well. And so we really have to unpack it from all different sides here.
Can you produce statistics about the bone density of biological men and how it changes upon being on hormones and whether or not it levels out to biological women?
I actually cannot, because when I would think of those statistics, I would think it was BS, to be quite honest with you, because the reality of it is we could talk about statistics and the research all day long, but it's about experience.
So why even show you statistics? Because remember, you're delusional. You live in la la land. Left is right, right is left, down is up. It's la la land. Welcome. You know what I mean? Like it's la la land. She said she's seen statistics and she thought it was BS. Okay, so you don't care about it. You're moving the goalposts. You're moving the goalposts. You're all over the place. It's like nailing Jello to a wall. You just can't do it. You just can't do it because there are no boundaries. There's no common ground. It's crazy how it's called middle ground. You can't have middle ground when there's no ground at all. You're just floating around in la la land. Just abstract, suspended. Animation.
We're going to be looking more at the
Whatever that
experience
means.
because, again, when we look at cisgender women who produce high levels of testosterone and who have been kicked out of sports and been disqualified from teams based on something that they biologically cannot control, then what are we really talking about here?
Well, we're talking about, data and that is.
I strongly do believe she doesn't even know what they're talking about. I truly do believe that. But what did she just say, that there are cis women, regular women? Did she just say that there's regular women that have had high level of testosterone, so they were kicked off of sports teams? I've never heard about anything like that. That's interesting, but I mean, it must have happened in La La Land.
Is overwhelming. And we're talking about what is also we're capable of seeing with our human eyes. I think it's very clear that if you compare maybe you to the rest of us, there is going to be a strength difference. There's going to be...
Oh, shit. She just said what everybody was thinking. Wait a minute. I thought she was the star of the show. She's starting to get her footing. Look, he even cracking a smile. Shit, he about to whack. Steve Seagal about to karate chop this, hit her right in the neck, upside the back of the damn head. She's looking like, damn. She's looking like, should we beat their ass now? He's looking like, damn. Hands balled up in a fist. She basically just said, let me translate this. She basically just said, you look about strong as fuck. You look about strong as fuck. You would beat all of our asses.
Be a bone density difference.
But you're just saying that you don't know until we physically do something, and just perceiving and assuming just because I look a certain way, that's not fair.
Whoa, because you look masculine. Look at your body composition. Look at your shoulders. And I'm reminder now. Look, we're reacting. We're having fun. We're joking around. Okay, but we're having fun. We're not being disrespectful. Okay. I'm just observing what I see, I'm just observing what I see. And in fact, you could play it back. A few minutes ago, I called her sweetheart on accident. So look, them shoulders is wide, bull. Them shoulders is wide, bull. Like, real talk. I'll even go as far as say this. She put me and her, if we got into a fight, shit, I'm not holding back. I can't. I can't. You know, I legitly can. You know, like she's just saying, she's really giving you some props. She's just saying, like, look, your build, you're bigger than us. We can say that. We can definitely say that.
We could look completely different or whatever, but she may be stronger than me.
I agree, but
she may have much more agility and vitality than I do. We don't know that until you actually.
I told y'all she played Elden Ring. The way she was saying, nice dodge. Before, I told you she played Elden Ring. She's talking about agility and vitality. She's a dex build. Dex build. I know a dex build when I see one. Strength build, dex build, faith build. I don't know.
Do it.
I'm saying it has been
done.
studied, it's been done.
And it's been done. We've seen it numerous
But it's an
times,
assumption.
time and time again.
But we're only going on assumption at this point.
Yeah, but I don't believe in numbers in facts. You got to remember that. That's what she's basically saying. But I'm in La La Land. I don't believe in numbers and facts.
Because again,
It's not assumption when we see it. Maybe it's the news cycle that I watch, but I see it a lot. I see it quite often where they're showing trans women beating. I mean, I'm by far.
And you don't see women
Biological
dominating
By far.
in the men's sports, right? You don't see trans men going into men's sport and just completely dominating and wiping the field with them. This is what happens when you, in my opinion, twist God's design. And when you go against God's design, you create these problems that you wouldn't have if you weren't going against what God intended.
I'm going to take her side
Praise
a
the
little
Lord.
bit on that. Let me say one more thing, and I'm supporting you on this one. There are
No, you can't. You can't when you can pick up a cinder block and shit, a engine block and shit. Look, let me look at a picture of a fucking engine block. Oh, hell nah. When you can pick this up and shit, throw that bitch over your shoulder and shit, fuck nah. You can't disagree. Hell no. Not when you can toss them bitches around, put it on a desk like you was talking about. This is what I'm saying. And she just got her back. That's all that is. She like, look, you getting cooked right now. I'ma step in.
I mean, there's a great deal of women that, and actually there was a lady in the last Olympics that they actually disqualified until she went on androgen blockers to knock her testosterone down to a female level. Like I said, this is not a binary yes or no question. And the whole idea of messing with what, God puts up, God put me up, okay, if you want to take that. And I had this conversation with a very religious man in San Diego, and he was like, oh, I don't quite know how to deal with that.
And God made you that way, but he didn't make a lot of the people transitioning.
I understand.
No, but God also understands my transition.
Yeah. I mean, it's already been discussed. You 1 in 150, 1.76. Very rare. We're not going to sit here and tell anybody that they don't matter. Okay, we're not going to say that. Okay, we understand where you're coming from. Somewhat. A little bit. But we can't just spout out blasphemy. We can't act like males don't have an advantage when it comes to physical competition.
God, first of all, knew what I was going to be in my life. God already knew I was going to be trans when God put me here. So I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair when people dip and dab.
No.
Your relationship with God is personal.
Yes.
It's sacred.
Let's
and
keep
I
it
don't
there.
think it's fair when other people dib and dab in other people's relationship with God when they don't understand what they go through. God still blesses me as a trans woman. God blesses you as a cisgender woman. God is embodied in me as a trans person. I don't think it's fair, again, when we judge people's personal relationship with God. Gender identity, sexual orientation, none of that matters to a God that loves all.
Gender dysphoria.
Okay, and one thing I will say, in all seriousness, I am a Christian, I only think that it's God's. Put it like this: I think it's up to God to judge. I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen to you." That's up to God to decide. I will say that. I'm not going to sit here and question somebody's faith. But she does say a valid point as far as, well, because what you're essentially saying is that that God made a mistake in a way. Like God because what I've heard a lot of, the argument that I've heard a lot of is I was a man put inside, no, I was a woman put inside of a man's body. That's the argument. And what that's saying is, God made a mistake and he put a man inside a woman's body. And what she's saying is like, look, I don't believe that God makes mistakes. And I feel like it's both a fair point for both of them to have, but it is something that I do feel like you should not really steer into a deep conversation of. And you notice they kind of cut that one off real quick.
Is real.
I think it is obviously real because many people experience it, but like any kind of dysphoria, whether it's someone who thinks they're overweight or anything, I think it should be treated as not reality. Like if I thought I was obese, I wouldn't want to go to a affirming therapist to tell me, yes, you are obese and you should, get skinnier.
Well, I had the opportunity of working on the DSM-4, I think it was, when we actually.
Okay, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders is the handbook used by healthcare professionals in the United States and much of the world as authoritative guide to the diagnosis of mental disorders. Okay, all right. Nice little blurb there.
Declassified
I like a good blurb.
Transgender dysphoria from a mental illness to a condition. I had been, at that point in time, I had been cross-dressing for 50 years. And, because that dysphoria was there and every single thing I did to try to drive it away didn't work. I spent millions of dollars trying to be the coolest dude in the world. I bought.
Now, is he saying millions like, is he using that in a hyperbole? Or is he legitimately a millionaire? You know what I'm saying? Like, did you really spend millions, my dude?
I bought airplanes. I bought everything that I.
Oh, damn. So he really is a dude. Holy shit. But look at Bruce Jenner. Look at Bruce Jenner. And look, I'm not trying to judge the way that anybody lives. But we can look at the signs and we can form a hypothesis. And it's just like, like, and look, I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to shoot. All right. I'm just going to say it. If you're a millionaire, you done bought planes and everything. It sounds like you've done everything but be a woman. And you're scratching that off the bucket list. Look at, we've seen this. We've seen this blueprint. He even mentioned that he's fathered kids. We've seen this blueprint. So it does kind of go to that body dysmorphia in a way, or dysphoria, gender dysphoria. All these different words, but it does kind of play into that in a way because you're trying to find yourself, and you were trying to find yourself through buying things, material things. I don't need to buy a boat or a airplane to be a male. Maybe no one really sat him down and really explained what it is to be a man, because you'll never get satisfaction out of those things. Just food for thought.
Could to just show the world how masculine I was. It didn't work. It didn't go away. And I did therapy. I purposely went to a therapist that was anti-gender affirming. And literally he said, you need to do this, and because it was so deep-seated. Spent 6 weeks as Gina with my son, and at the end of that period of time, he asked two very fundamental questions. The most important one was, it's got to be truly exhausting for you to lead two lives. And I was kind of like, that kind of shook me to the core that my 22-year-old son saw that better than I did. So shortly thereafter, I announced to my family that I was going to transition. My wife and I separated because of it. The kids were not necessarily shocked, but understood. And
Well, how does that even work, though? Wait a minute. So you're living two different lives, and they knew. So does that mean that you would just go to certain places and you would just kind of have like your time? You would have like a duffel bag with some women's clothes. You'll go out, car ride back in after you're out doing what you do. Come back in, you're done cross dressing. You got your male clothes on or whatever. You look in the mirror, wipe off the lipstick and the makeup, and then you go back in, and your son looks at your sleeve and he's like, Dad, he sees the lipstick, and he looks and he says, Dad, it must be tough for you to live two lives. Like, is that the scenario that he's going for? See, I just drew that up. You see, I'm telling you, could be a damn detective. But is that how that goes? Because that's peculiar, and then you and your wife separated. On top of that, so does that mean that you were attracted to your wife? Like, were you still trying to be with your wife? It's just crazy. Like, because it seems like it was an open thing. Like, they all knew, especially if your son is sitting here calling. If they all knew, does that mean that you're a woman who likes other women? Crazy. La La Land.
And have supported me quite well, and my wife has actually become a very good, very warm, supporting person for me.
Gender dysphoria almost made me kill myself. And coming from Mississippi, at the time, there wasn't a lot of access to gender-affirming resources, like hormones, if I wanted surgery, whatever the case may be. And a lot of us trans folks who don't have access like that, a lot of us have to do sex work to be able to afford some of these things as well.
Whoa. La La Land. What the fuck is she talking about? She just said that they have to do sex work. That's so crazy. That's crazy for you to say, Blossom. That's crazy. And that's what I'm saying. Like, the victim mindset, it's a real thing in La La Land. So I'm guessing you say something like that you've done sex work. And it's cis people's fault because we weren't aware. We're uneducated, and we didn't have, clinics on every turn. We didn't have propaganda in every kid's show. So you had to go and have sex to make money. You see, it's just such a far reach. It's a Mr. Fantastic reach. It's a Luffy from One Piece reach. A Gum Fruit reach. Around the world, you know what I mean? Like, it's just wicked reach. Crazy. Kyle Pitts reach. Kevin Durant reach. I could go for days, yo. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Coming up at the age of 20, and I knew I had a serious gender dysphoria, I did things to my body that I should have went to a hospital to do. That is something that's very, very hard for people to understand. A lot of us commit suicide because of gender dysphoria, and so it hits our community a lot harder.
I do think gender dysphoria is very much real. I think the issue that's happened, especially in the space of science and research, is that we've looked at gender dysphoria and said the only source of care that we can go through is blind gender affirmation care. And a lot of the research shows
receipt of gender affirming intervention, specifically PBs or GAs, was associated with 60% lower odds of moderate to severe depressive symptoms and 73% lower odds in self-harm. Okay, see, this wasn't a good blurb. This was not a good blurb.
That this is not
I'm
the
sorry,
route to
y'all.
go into. And other countries that have decided to do nonpartisan research, Sweden, Finland, have decided that, yes, gender affirmation care should be an
Okay, now they're kind of getting overboard with the blurbs. Yeah.
option.
I'm not even gonna waste your time. I'm sorry,
But it really should be the
y'all.
last resort when it comes to treating people who appear at clinics with gender dysphoria. You know, a lot of conservatives will deny and say, well, gender affirmation care does not make them happier. And in many cases, that is true. But there are the cases like yourselves where the gender affirmation care does make them happier.
You know, I know a lot of people that have transitioned, have untransitioned. I've talked with a gentleman at a religious right convention one day, and he was sitting there screaming how Jesus got him out of his gender transition. And honestly, that was the saddest man I've ever talked to in my life. When I looked at him straight in the eyes, and
You see, there we go. There we go. Because you are a walking sad detector. Your sad senses went off. Mumbo jumbo speak. This man was preaching the Lord to you. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but in the first video, when she said, oh, God, he was like, ah. He's kind of been kind of snarky when it comes to religion. I don't know if he's religious or not, but kind of, it says a lot.
I said, you know, here, I don't agree with what you say, but I 100% support your right to say that. And he just literally broke down crying on the steps of the Supreme Court.
If I could interject really quickly, I do.
No, absolutely not.
I feel as though the medical
beat her
profession is
ass.
actually inching towards a space that is going to become unsafe for people who try to express their gender dysphoria, because now we have young children coming into clinics expressing this, who by and large, statistically, about 60 to 70% grow out of that dysphoria. But because it's become a political issue, where many activists have come in and say, no, you blindly affirm, you affirm to the furthest extent that you can, rather than going through a more comprehensive process with these children, we have what I think is a medical tragedy happening against young people in this country.
Amen.
I have been sexually harassed.
Yikes.
Yeah, I think in our society, it's so sexualized, everyone and everything, and I think we owe a lot of that to pornography and just media, and I think the kind of acceptance that I do see more so in the LGBT community of, like, you know, sex is great and let, like, everyone talk about it and there's no shame and everyone's just blurting out, you know, the fact that we're perpetuating a culture.
Damn. Yo. She's coming back for the spotlight. She said it's y'all's fault. She said it is y'all fault that this is happening to me. And he took that personally.
That's, frankly, in my opinion, disgusting.
She took that personally.
So are you talking
She said this. Damn. And then she said disgusting. Bro, she about to look at this arm. Look at them veins. She about to gorilla gripper.
about LGBT people?
I'm talking more so just about this sexual revolution, that the more sexual you are, the more partners you have, the more open you are about your sex life and everything, the more, like, liberated you are. What is
she bringing it full circle.
People are coming out of the woodwork saying, you know, I was violated, this happened to me, but they, like, drove home with that person. And I'm not blaming them, but I am saying those lines are being blurred because of our just flagrant disregard for any kind of, like, actual relationship prior to the sexual encounter, and I think a lot of people are being exploited left and right.
True sex positivity has been powerful. It has helped us to grow and learn about our bodies in so many ways and learn safe sex practices in so many ways. What I would blame for rape culture or for a lack of good boundaries or that kind of thing is we live in a capitalist system that has taken things like sex positivity and mangled it and repackaged it and made it a whole other thing than what it actually is.
I was sexually harassed for 5 years by a woman. That does happen because I'm pretty sure it's going to be we're men this, men that. It's hard coming from a man, but to me it was harder coming from a woman because it wasn't expected. Like, I understand you're going to probably touch on that about how men are more on the predatory side or the more harassing side, sometimes. But I just want to let you know that it does happen with women as well.
All these women are married. It looks like, anyways. Like, these women, they speak facts, bro. You could tell that they respect men. You could just see it. They respect men.
All through my life, world's biggest kid in junior high school, I basically was harassed continuously for being gender non-conforming. Back then, everybody in junior high school took showers together. I basically had a permanent welt on my bottom from people snapping towels at me because, I wasn't as well endowed as I probably should be. I had, pretty good sized boy boobs and basically was just unhappy being in sports. But,
yo, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I was born 98. I'm 24 years old. Like, that whole thing is wild. That y'all was just out here in showers, snapping towels on booties and whatnot. Wild. I be watching like those old 90 movies and they be doing shit like that. Wild that y'all used to get down like that. Wild. And then y'all grew up to to encourage the stuff that's going on right now. That's what happened. Shit, I just solved it right there. But let's hear this testimony.
It happens everywhere. I have been sexually assaulted, and it didn't work out well for any of them. It's real. Let me just put it that way. It's
Steve Seagal. Hard to kill. He pop, Krav Maga. Shit, that boy got some Liam Neeson in him. I don't know why anybody would try anything on this man.
Absolutely real.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard to find a person who hasn't been
genuinely
sexually harassed in some way, shape, or form, whether you are male or female. I think it's an experience that we all share because we are in somewhat of a hyper-sexualized society, and people love to make those comments public. I am a podcaster and I do social media for a living, so as you can imagine, the onslaught of sexual harassment is quite vast.
From a very young age, I've had this recurring nightmare of something happening to me, trying to warn people and
Yo, it's like listening to fucking Wraith from Apex Legends. What are you talking about? You could tell she listens to like scream music. It's like, bro, you could like the movie trailers, the beginning of movie trailers, like you could literally put that in the beginning and have like all this shit coming in. I have this reoccurring nightmare. And it just keeps happening. You know what I mean? Like, that shit would fucking hit. Like, niggas would be on the edge of their seats. Like, I'm actually curious. Even though I know it's not going to be anything.
no one believes me. When you're not believed that you're a desirable person, and I really don't think rape has anything to do with desire, but when you're not believed in that way, when trans women are experiencing trans misogyny, we're the ones who are least believed when we are sexually assaulted. And it just feels so disempowering and so terrifying when you know that you are someone who is seen as hypersexual, as inherently sexual, as inherently predatory, and yet at the same time you're seen as someone who can be isolated and sexually assaulted and not believed.
I don't think there's anything inherently predatory about trans people. And I think oftentimes when we're talking from a conservative perspective, it gets misconstrued as viewing you as a threat. And I hope that that never comes off. And I think that...
Yeah, and that's the whole problem with just the word homophobic in itself. Like, I don't think anybody's scared of homosexual people. You know, it's just kind of a weird word because, you know, phobia, fear of, like, no one's scared of homosexual people. So it's just like, I don't think anybody sees them as a threat. I think it's more so of just the propaganda, things being forced on us, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think people should be out here, you know, beating their ass or anything. Let me just make it very clear.
Allegations of sexual assault, regardless of who they're coming from, should be taken seriously.
Okay, well, part two, not bad. This Jubilee shit is kind of lit.